On the screen is a swim paddle. This is actually the most proliferated swim training product in the entire training category because there's so many different shape, different size, and certainly it's very confusing why and how they were used and why they were designed. But they're fit into two or three categories. Number one is the size. Number two is the shape. And number three is particular area of the holding and pushing of using your hand, and it's designed to magnify those smaller area. Those are much more specific. So let's talk about the size. When we do the swim team fitting, we bring, let's say this is a power paddle. This is Speedo brand. This one is also a Speedo brand. I think this is a contour paddle. Yes, contour paddle. This is a contour paddle, much smaller one. So a lot of time, the swimmer will say what side I should use, and they will take their hands out and then do a comparison to say, this one is about my hand size, and then that's what I'm gonna use. The correct answer to that, to the size question, is that you should ask how they were used. If they're used for training the stroke, just by magnify the motion under the water for pulling and pushing. For that purposes, you need a little bit larger paddle because it magnify enough so that you can feel the difference from your natural hand, because your natural hand has a lot more leaky gaps in between the finger and so on and so forth. Now, if your coach is using the paddle to train strength and endurance longer, using it much longer, then it should be a smaller paddle. So with a bigger paddle, if they're used for training the longer drill and for endurance, you can easily hurt your shoulder because this is provide too much resistance. Now, so the correct answer is that if your coach is using this one for training for the stroke, and then a slightly larger is not a big deal. It should be used, but if it's used for endurance training, then you should actually use a smaller one. Now, if your coach is training for both, then you probably would have to get the larger one for the stroke correction and using the smaller one for the endurance and the distance and the strength. Now let's talk about the shape on the shapes of the paddle. The smaller one, actually the ancestor of the smaller paddle, I remember it was something called a Hans paddle. It was basically a square, and it is designed by this swimmer who just want to have a paddle to block the water going in between the fingers and to provide a little bit more resistance. And I believe his design concept at that time was actually endurance. So therefore, after that, there's a category of this kind of a paddle that follows that design, and certainly they are putting some holes in here to provide additional stability when the water goes through this. It does have a little bit more stability, but in general, this kind of a paddle, smaller paddle, is follow your hand movement. It also has some curvature that provide more efficient water scooping when you're under the water, when your hand is not perpendicular with the water yet in that transition period, and certainly during the pushing period as well. So smaller paddle more likely have some kind of a curvature. I do believe this is a Speedo brand, and the other brand also have similar design. Now, the larger paddle, primarily they're all flat, but they all have holes in between. This hose is the one that provide additional stability because the water seeping through from those holes. I remember it's actually started from the Stroke Maker. It was a kind of a circle one very, very many years ago, and it is still on the market. And now most of the larger paddle, they all have the holes in there. Now, the shape of it is hard to quantitatively say which one is better. But you can see that their certain shape is designed to have you to provide the uniform force when you're pulling the water and push the water. I do believe the most important part is actually this strap, flexible strap, allow you to put your hand, adjust your hands according to the shape of the paddle, so that it will provide a better balance when you are pulling, when you're pulling the water in using your hand. So the shape of it is the most confusing, but because it's a flexible adjustment on your on how to really fix it on your hand, I think it's actually less important, as long as you can feel that give you the kind of uniformity and a balance when you're using the paddle to pull and push the water, as long as it doesn't wobble. That's why on the screen you will see they have all different kind of a shape. And this is actually Arena brand. They don't have that many holes. And this is, if you were, if you put this one, on a smaller hand, it will, you really have, or your arm is not strong enough. Sometimes it could distort your pulling, and you just have to be careful when using this one because it doesn't have the hole to provide the stability when you're going through the water. But this one has, this is a cutlass paddle. It has, a similar design, and many other, this is other Speedo design, the Speedo paddle. This is the Mentor Tour. So this one certainly put more force on your hand, and unlike this kind of a paddle, it actually handle the force and magnify the finger on the top, putting more force on the top. So for this one, you want to have the entire paddle to be on your hand while you're wearing them. But for some of the other paddle, like a finger paddle, they actually designed to have your, to wear them on the upper part of your hand. It's a slightly alteration of the full hand paddle. It just have a little bit different, but you will see it share the same similar design. It's basically magnify your force when you're pulling. So let's talk about the holes in the paddle. technically, a smaller paddle, you don't really need the hose because the stability should be guaranteed by your strength of your wrist, of your body, of your arm. And when the paddle is small, your hand is kind of blocking those holes anyway. So I don't really see the point of putting the hose. And certainly, for hose like here, it's still streaming the water through. It does have a little bit stability, impact. But for the larger one, and the hose will be very important. Would be very significant to have, so that you don't end up uh, scooping the water and then going sideways and then losing the efficiency and the power of your stroke. For this one, having a hole in the middle, I'm not sure what is the point and what is the design point on this one. And besides of this hole is a large hole, is probably only for reducing the weight issue, but for such a smaller piece, you really the weight really is not that significant. And this one has very little adjustable uh, flexibility in how to really position your hand. So for a paddle like this one, now you would have be very certain. You would have to be very certain how to, the middle of placing your hand in the middle will provide the correct balance. Otherwise, you would have to adjust your stroke to fit this power, to fit this resistance of the power. That it's just a very against the traditional conventional modern design, like this one or anyone you see on the screen. Um, and the stroke maker paddle, I don't have a sample of it. It's actually all of them have holes, even the smaller one. And I think it's just for um, consistency. But their smaller one is really designed for smaller kids. So the holes on the paddle is also very uniform, and that actually do make sense. It does make sense. So the modern design of the stroke paddles, the swim paddles, is really the adjustment of the placement strap and also the stabilization of the hose on the paddle, so that it will not distort your stroke, and so that it will not it provide a certain stability. That's really the inside of modern swim paddle design.